Right. All right. So, hello. I'm Joseph Caddell, founder and creative director of Studio 237. Um, I would consider us a small ragtag boutique um, production company. Uh, Started out specializing in video game development, but then decided to branch out into um, being service provider for film and animation industry. And so I would say a double-edged sword uh, of sorts. So really working on creating our own IPs internally while uh, reaching out to clients, previous and new, and helping them with their projects. So more of a sort of a tailor-made service. We want to remain small and be a more of a relationship between clients and build long-term uh, contracts with them, and not really just wanting to be a one-off. So today I'm just going to talk about the process of creating such a company. I know there's a lot of the development side of it. If you're a programmer or an artist, there's you know tons of talks and ways of how to approach building a game, but not really from a business perspective. So I'm going to do my best to explain that. I think the best way to go about it, because I'm still learning a whole ton myself, is to explain my process and how I went about it, the tools that I use, and just kind of going through that process. So first and foremost, you have to formulate an LLC, which is a limited liability company. I used Nolo. It's like the easiest thing in the world. I thought it was going to be like extremely hard, but I think I finished mine in, geez, probably like an hour or two. Your mileage may vary. I started in 2019, and they provide all the documentation for you, everything you need to do to get started. So whether you might need to spend some time to develop your project or your marketing, if you're going to be reaching out to other people as a service provider or outsourcer, you'll still need it. You'll still have everything. Or if you're going to be getting started right away, but you just need the legal side of everything to be set in place, and you'll have everything once it's shipped. Of course, they have different time frames and different packages. If you think you're going to be a larger studio, then you can get the larger package where they include all the documents for the IRS filings and everything. And I'll get to that in a moment. I'll share that with you. And another thing, I highly recommend you get a physical commercial address. And know in in this day and age of remote work, it's still important. Um, I rented an office out of Regus. They're a co-working space, but they also have private offices, and I can share that with you in a moment as well. They have virtual offices as well if you don't want to drop the cash for a physical address or a physical office for you to work out of if you prefer to work remotely. So they have that option if you just need the address for legality reasons. And I'll share that as well with you in a moment too. So those are some quick things. Tip. Now, this is not legal advice. I'm not a lawyer or a tax advisor, but what I do know from my experience and what I've learned is that if you are planning to make $40,000 or more in your first calendar year, if you're projecting that you'll make that much, then it's recommended you go with an S corp, because LLC is going to essentially have you pay more in self-employment taxes. So that's something to consider. S corp is or the TLDR is basically just companies that have heftier income or more employees, or LLC is more for the smaller self-employment. Really, LLC is just kind of separating you from your company, so you're not liable for any lawsuits or any sort of contractual obligations that you put the company under. Um, so let me exit out of this real quick. Oops. So here's Nolo. You're basically putting the name. They give you 3 options. It's not showing you right now because you have to go through like the step by step. It's kind of like a funnel. Um, but it's a step-by-step process. They believe they give you 3 names that you would prefer. So if your first choice doesn't get picked, if it's already taken, then they'll go through the other 2. Or actually, they'll go over you give them your first option, they give you 3 options, 3 additional options, if I'm not mistaken. And then they give you all the operating agreements that you need, organizational setup, because you'll need a EIN, which is an employment identification number. So when you file taxes, you file under your social security number, your SSN. But when you're running a company, you get an EIN. And so they'll do all that filing for you, so you don't have to deal with the IRS. Again, that's if you want to pay for that extra step to do, I would recommend it. I mean, if you're starting a company, there's going to be startup expenses. So I would just say spend where you need it the most. And they give you a option as well where uh, um, how should I say, like entity management. So this is mine. I'm logged in to my account, and basically, in a nutshell, they kind of, how should I say, they're like a bridge between you and the government and the IRS. They let you know if you need to update something for your company, if there's taxes that need to be paid, or any sort of um, information, just any sort of information that needs to be updated, like your address, phone number, um, where your company is located. And so this is kind of where I have everything. So it kind of shows all of this domestic. Jurisdiction is California. Shows domestic or foreign, formulation date. So it has all of these things set up for you. And yeah, I believe that's pretty much it for that part. The next thing I would recommend is building a good web presence. I noticed, a lot of I'm going to actually jump straight to the tip part. Is I know a lot of artists these days like use Instagram and Twitter, and they don't have any um, they don't have any kind of website. So I would recommend to really build an actual website, because you're a company now, not a solo freelancer. And if you are serious about getting large clients, or to bring into your company, or if you're seeking publisher investment for a game you're building, it's wise to build an actual website. I use Squarespace, but you can use Wix. I use Squarespace because it's easier to use, but Wix has gotten a lot better. I use Google Maps. So if you ever Google a company, I put my information on there, and I can kind of show you how to go about doing that. Because for me for my company personally, for Studio 237, I wanted a physical presence, because the goal is to have uh, a larger studio out here, so it would be beneficial. Plus, for clients and publishers, they like to see that, especially if you're going for business credit or business loans. Uh, the banks want to see that you have that you're legitimate. They want to search you because before you go, before they kind of accept your application, they'll look you up. They'll see, okay, does this studio have a physical location, and do they have an actual phone number, uh, a business phone number? So VOV, is it VIOP or something? Voice over internet phone. You can get one of those. Um, the cell phone's fine as well, but you have to at least have one of those set up. And again, I can show you that in a moment as well. So Google SEO, Google search, so make sure that was set up. So when you Google Studio 237, chances are it will most likely pop up, hopefully. So far it's worked out pretty well. So, and Google business email, you can use whatever other service you want, but I use Google because it's so much easier to get set up, because they just make it super simple. I mean, we all pretty much use Google these days, for the most part. And you don't want to use your @Gmail, @Yahoo, or Hotmail, because that just looks unprofessional. And then again, if you're going out to get clients or looking for a business loan or business credit, um, that's just not going to really cut it for them. So it's good to get all these things lined up before you kind of reach out to clients or publishers. And let me see, and show you what. Yeah, let's see. So let's see. Yep. Studio 237 is right here. So as you can see, everything's here. You can go to manage profile, if it loads up. So once you get your Google account all set up, you can set it up here in Google Maps. I think you can. Yeah, you would have to go under Maps and then set it up that way. And then you can edit all the business information, and add updates and this sort of thing. Add hours, of course. I'm not like a normal business or anything. It's a studio, so I didn't really have to do all that. But the address and photos, I added all the added photos because I think that helps. Just like any other kind of business, just random stuff of projects that I've worked on, either as a freelancer or with the company that's related. And then a reel. So it's good for people to see that. It's a little more professional, I think, in my opinion. But it does give them more confidence in doing business with you. So, and so let's see, go to this. So accounting, kind of wish I had more to share on this with you, because that's accounting is obviously could only go too far, being more of a creative person, but I have learned quite a bit about accounting. I use 1-800 accounting. I'm pretty sure you've seen that pop up at times maybe, or maybe you've heard of it. If not, I'll definitely show you. So they provide accounting services, tax preparation, and bookkeeping. It's a really great service if you're a smaller team and you don't mind doing some of the footwork yourself, or you're just starting out and you don't quite have that budget to hire an accountant, or just for cost reasons as well. I've started using them a little bit later, so I would recommend you start, because I was doing it for the first 2 years myself, and yeah, so that's a kind of a mistake, a learning lesson. So I would get started with them early, um, because yeah, they can be a bit pricey. I think for 1 year accounting services, it's about 2,500. Without looking at my invoice, I gotta look at it, but um, it might be a lot upfront, but they have payment plans that they can work with you. And yeah, it's really important to get that done, because they'll help you manage your budgets. They'll help you manage um, your spending, and get things ready for tax season. And they'll file everything for you. And so I would recommend you get that set up. If it would, I would show mine, but I don't know, some of it might be. This, oh, oops. That's not- so, of course, it's otherwise, didn't it? Oh, it's not going to my dashboard for some reason. But anyway, basically everything I just explained, and they'll even do the entity formulation as well. So if you don't want to use NOLO, they do it as well. But yeah, business taxes, and they do payroll, bookkeeping. A key thing here that they're saying here, if you're doing, if you're earning a certain amount, they'll help you save as much as you can, and it's been a big help. I think one other thing I would like to mention as well, if you're formulating an LLC, do note that irregardless if you're earning money for your business or you're not, you have to pay $800 per year on taxes. So if you decide to just take a 1 year vacation and not do any work, uh, just know that when tax seasons comes, or if you're just not getting the client work that you need, or building your game, then uh, just note that that will be a requirement at the end of the year. That I knew was going to happen, so I was prepared for that. But if you're not, then just kind of that out. And yeah, that's it for that part of it. Kind of like a miscellany, certain things that I use for timekeeping and project management. Trello's good. Some other, there's tons of other software. Um, Shooting it blank here, but Notion, I believe, is what it's called. Those are all good software um, to use, but I use Clockify and Monday. I'm sure you've seen enough of those ads. Um, I eventually decided to give it a shot. It's actually really good, as well as Grammarly. That's actually been quite a lifesaver, putting together um, putting together business plans and pitches, sometimes you just kind of want to just type stuff and just go. Also, it's a good companion for chat GBT. Gosh, I keep forgetting the name of it, that AI um, thing. So if you're just wanting it to write something there and then just throw it in Grammarly, because it doesn't always get the pronunciation or vocabulary, the grammar correct. So just that's what I use. I just throw it in Grammarly and just like, okay, that sounds good. Not all the time. I want to write a lot of stuff myself, but it's just a little side note. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I know there's not a lot of people here right now, so I'm sure there's something I may have missed or what have you, but um, if anyone else here has questions, maybe there can be something I can bring up that.
Could you tell us a little bit about your career path
Yeah, definitely.
and how you got to the point where you have your own company that you operate?
Yeah, so I got started, um, really, I got started in 2008. Not my actual career, but my education to get my career started. I went to the Art Institute. I graduated in 2012, so I've been doing freelancing since then. Been about, I think, 11 years. 11 years now, 10 or 11. Um, my primary goal was video game development, um, specifically game art. I wanted to be an environment artist, and so I specialized in that during schooling, and then went went and got my first gig after doing. It's kind of funny. 3D animations for um, crime reconstruction or accident reconstruction. So so kind of playing CIS or, man, I'm getting all the abbreviations wrong today. But like CSI kind of stuff, like when you see when you're reconstructing stuff and showing it to court, to the judge and the jury, like this guy slipped and fell and broke his head on on a tire iron or something. And so we had to reconstruct all that in 3D and saw some pretty gruesome images and having to we use 3ds Max because it's a little more accurate with the measurements and doing simulations for that. But then I started working on mobile games after working on that for a year. So that was like 2012 to 2013. I worked on some indie mobile games. Some launched, some didn't. Uh, and it's quite a roller coaster working on those games because you, you work on, I worked on one game for a whole year, probably a little longer than that, and didn't ship, but had some great art to build my portfolio. And then that got the next job, and then I got the next gig, and um, worked on my first VR game around 2015, I believe it was. That's when the VR craze started happening, 2015, 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And that was Paranormal Activity, The Lost Soul. Uh, pretty decent. It was an okay-ish VR game. But I that's when I first got noticed by Digital Domain because they started working on virtual reality as well. And Digital Domain's a large VFX company. They worked on a lot of the Marvel films and any other kind of large feature film doing effects. So that was a pretty good experience doing environment art for them in this VR experience. It was called, geez, it was for a sci-fi show, like an actual, like on Sci-Fi Channel. Um, couldn't remember the name, but it kind of it snowballs. It quite a different kind of an array of various experiences. Because your career can go anywhere. I started out to be an environment artist in games, but went off doing uh, virtual reality, and then the virtual production stuff started kicking off a couple years ago, and then every filmmaker and producer wanted to start using Unreal Engine and Unity all of a sudden to do virtual production work with virtual reality headsets. I actually worked on the Call of the Wild remake that came out, I think, geez, I'm really forgetful today. A couple of years ago, I think 2018 or 19, I believe. And the director was using virtual reality to kind of do some of the previs to look at the virtual shots. And so that was some fun experimenting. So I got to work on that, and so that kind of what got me into the animation and film industry, is because that bridge is being gapped now between game and between game engines and traditional offline rendering methods using Maya and Cinema 4D and all that. Um, and so I started working on films like Black Adam and Ant-Man Quantumania, just doing tech art stuff inside of Unreal Engine, because I started specializing more in lighting and materials. And so yeah, it's kind of your career can really take a a different path, but really I allowed it to, because I'm kind of like a hodgepodge type of artist. I just, if I can learn something new, if I can do something else new and creative, um, that's fine with me. So um, I would like to
Stuff.
use, yeah, I would like to use the word bespoke, you know, kind of really custom tailor-made type of artwork. Doesn't matter what industry. So yeah, and then 2019 I decided to start Studio 237 because it's been on my mind since I got started, really. I tried multiple times in the past, but it just wasn't the right timing. But it's the right timing then, so I got started, and all the connections and that I've had in the past, working with Digital Domain and all those guys, and the platform, they've uh, allowed me to get work for the company, and I've done some pretty cool stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much a bit of a long, elongated response, but that's a bit my history. Any other?
Could you also talk about how to recruit people and find talent or people sharing the same interests as you?
Yeah. So like I said previously, freelancing, bouncing around to different studios really helped grow my network. And the first couple of big projects for Studio 237 happened because I was connected with a person that I worked with 2020. Because really I started getting work for the company last year. So I was still doing solo stuff. And so 2 years later, I get connected with him. And so it's really just kind of word of mouth and be connected with people. That's how I got a lot of the work. And so keeping connected with people on LinkedIn, but also a good place, in addition to just organic networking, and would be I think the popular one nowadays is Discord. Getting connected with uh, uh, a Discord channel with like-minded people. Just searching online, looking, asking people around on LinkedIn or on Reddit or wherever you're working now. If you are working, and if you're lucky enough getting started, if you're working with some kind of game development team of sorts, there's always going to be someone in that team that knows someone or a certain group. And like the people that I'm working with now, one of the guys, this has been so creating a little animation series that he has on YouTube. And so I connected with him, and a guy that I worked with, like a buddy of mine, about a year and a half ago. He connected me with someone that works at Pixar, and he's making an animated short. And so he was just like, yeah, just want you to work on some stuff. I heard that you're good in Unreal Engine. I'm like, okay. So yeah, really it's really just getting connected with the right groups on Discord or even Slack. I know Slack is a little more, I guess, quote unquote, professional, for working teams. But there are some groups on there that can help out. I don't really know much because, like I said, Discord is usually more where it's at. If you're using Unity, there's a Unity forums. If you're using Unreal, or not forums, but the Unity Discord channel. If you're using Unreal Engine, I believe it's called, I forgot what the name is called, but if you're using Slack, there's Unreal Engine Slackers or Unreal Slack. And I can link all this stuff afterwards if you want to share it with whoever wants to whoever listens to this afterward. Yeah, I would just say stay connected with people on Reddit and Discord. Just tons of channels with like-minded people.
That's really good advice. Can I have a question about how you can retain a mindset? Because let's just say TLDR, I find it kind of hard to like start up or do something project and then maintain the same motivation or excitement throughout the project. Could you talk about your strategies to maintain that? Like starting
Yeah.
a small company.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said earlier, it was a while. It took me a while to finally get Studio 237 where it's at, and it was just okay. I didn't have enough experience, not really from a resume, I guess, perspective, but more so just how do I put it? Just myself personally, I didn't feel ready enough. Felt like I still needed to go out there and network with more people, work on more projects, build up a better portfolio. And so I guess really is just yeah, that's kind of a organic one because it really depends on you on so I guess the best way to answer is what did I do? Would say student 237 is the third attempt. And I didn't even get as far as I did. I think the other first two times I've just conceptualized an idea of what the company would be and a logo design and maybe a rough website just to kind of get an idea, and that's it. I would say just kind of really hone in on the idea of what your mission is. What is your mission? What is it that you want to do with the company? I guess the cliche would be, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Where do you want your company to be? the type of people you want to work with. What are some of the things you want to contribute to in regards to other people? Um, like I know for me, Studio 237 is um, you know, I myself am a Christian, so I do a lot of biblical concepts for projects that I would eventually like to get, kickstarted. So that also kind of plays into the company, I guess, the company structure of um, helping helping people be welcomed, helping people to be um, yeah, have a place that's not going to stress them out. Thinking about mostly their needs and how can they actually have a real work-life balance. Um, you know, restricting work days to just work days and not weekends. Really trying to acknowledge that. And another thing is wanting to give back to the community that I live in. I was born and raised in San Bernardino, and so I had left a few years ago. And I came back, and that's when I started Studio 237, or at the very least, it kicked off to be more serious. Um, and so my concept is, or part of the mission is to build the industry here and allow the economy to grow by building the industry here. Yes, most people probably be remote, given the trend in the industry now, but there would be a set amount of core team members here in the vicinity, and just really inspiring local artists to do the same if they have the same dream to start a game studio or animation studio, to really be that inspiration. Because I know when I started out, I didn't know where to go or what to do, because I didn't live in Los Angeles. I lived in San Bernardino because there was nothing out here like that. So that's what the mission is. It took me a while to really figure that out. And so that's what really motivated me to finally make this, uh, to finally make this a reality. And because before it was just and I still do, but before it was just I just want to make cool stuff. But now that I have an actual mission to give to others, to provide for others, a way to kickstart their career, a way to give them a better lifestyle in the way they work with us. That was really my desire. That's the desire God put into my heart, to want to help others in that way. So that's kind of like what really drove me to push forward with the vision and the mission. Because before, like I said, that wasn't my idea at all. I just wanted to make games and with no real direction or anything. So you really need that proverbial carrot over your head, I would say. So if you can find that, if you can write it down in a journal, I it's as corny as that sounds, but hey, get your journal, get your diary out, and if you're feeling demotivated, and say, why do I want to do this? What is the purpose? Like, you want to make games or animations or films or whatever you're doing, but why is it, like, how's it going to benefit other people, or if it will benefit other people, or why do I want to make like some people just want to specialize in making I don't know adventure games, or for me it was horror games at the beginning. Why do I like horror games, or why do I, if what I'm saying makes sense, it's really kind of digging deep at the core of your being. As hippie as that might sound, but it's so true. Because the company, you're not your company. You don't want people to say when you die, oh yeah, he was Studio 237. I don't want that to be the only thing I've known for it. You don't want your work to become your life, but at the same time, it is a pretty important aspect of it. So it's going to take up a lot of your time. So just make sure you know what it is at the root, your the root of your art of what you want to do. So that's my spiel on that. So,
Wow, that's a really good response. Thank you. That's been a
Yeah.
really good time.
Thank you, Joseph.
yeah.
Do you want to answer more questions? We're technically supposed to end at this time, but if you do want to stay longer, I'm not stopping you.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys, I'm down for more questions. Yeah, I can. Let me stop sharing, I guess.
Lane, you got any
Uh,
questions?
No questions right now. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us. It was an awesome presentation.
Yeah. Thank you guys for inviting me. It's been a pleasure, and hoping it can do more and share more, and it's a good experience.
Thank you. Well, I hope that you'll come again maybe next semester or whatever you feel comfortable with. Thank you so much, Joseph.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Joseph. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Bye.